Daniel grew up in a small town where opportunities were limited and dreams were often ignored. From a young age, he believed that life had something bigger prepared for him. While other children played without worry, Daniel spent his time thinking about the future. He wanted success, not just money, but a life he could be proud of. However, reality was not kind to him. Daniel's family struggled financially, and from an early age, he understood the value of hard work. After finishing school, he tried to find a good job, but every interview ended the same way, with rejection. Employers told him he lacked experience, confidence, or skills. Each no felt heavier than the last. At first, Daniel believed failure meant he was not good enough. He compared himself to others who seemed to succeed easily. Friends moved to big cities, found jobs, and shared happy stories. Daniel stayed behind, feeling stuck and forgotten. Doubt slowly entered his mind. Still, something inside him refused to give up. Daniel decided that if he lacked skills, he would learn them. He started reading books, watching educational videos, and improving himself every day. Progress was slow, and many days felt pointless. Yet he continued, even when no one noticed. 1 year later, Daniel tried again. He applied for jobs, started small projects, and shared his ideas. But failure followed him once more. Projects failed. People ignored his work. Some laughed at his ambition. Pain returned, stronger than before. This time, Daniel reacted differently. Instead of stopping, he asked himself a simple question: what is failure trying to teach me? He realized that every mistake showed him where to improve. Failure was not the end, it was guidance. That moment changed everything. Daniel promised himself one thing. No matter how many times he failed, he would never stop trying. He understood that success was not about speed, talent, or luck, but about patience, learning, and persistence. And this was only the beginning of his journey. Daniel's first failure came early in his life. After finishing school, he applied to several colleges, hoping to study engineering. He believed this was his path to success. However, rejection letters arrived one after another. Each letter felt heavy, as if it was telling him he was not good enough. Friends moved forward with their studies, while Daniel stayed behind, confused and disappointed. For a short time, he felt ashamed. He avoided talking about his future and spent many days doing nothing. His confidence slowly disappeared. But deep inside, there was a small voice telling him not to stop. Daniel understood that failure was painful, but stopping would be even worse. Instead of giving up, he decided to try a different approach. He found a small job to support himself and started studying on his own in the evenings. He watched free online lessons, read books, and practiced every day. Progress was slow, and many nights he felt tired and frustrated. Still, he reminded himself that patience and effort always bring results. Months later, Daniel applied again. This time, he was rejected once more. The disappointment returned, stronger than before. But something had changed inside him. He no longer saw failure as a final answer. He sought his feedback. He asked himself what he could improve and where he had made mistakes. Daniel learned an important lesson. Failure does not mean you are weak. It means you are learning. Every rejection made him more prepared and more determined. He realized that growth often comes from difficult moments, not easy ones. By continuing to work, study, and believe in himself, Daniel was slowly building a stronger mindset. He understood that success rarely comes quickly, but those who stay patient and persistent eventually move forward. Daniel's third failure was the hardest one to accept. He had finally saved enough money to start a small project of his own. It was not big, but it mattered to him. He worked every evening after his job, often feeling tired but hopeful. For the first time, he truly believed this could be the turning point of his life. However, after a few months, the project failed. Customers were not interested, and expenses were higher than expected. One evening, Daniel sat alone in his small room, staring at the wall. He felt empty. The question repeated in his mind: why does this always happen to me? For several days, Daniel lost his motivation. He woke up late, skipped his routines, and avoided people. Failure felt personal. as if it was proof that he was not good enough. But deep inside, another voice quietly spoke to him. It reminded him of all the things he had learned from past failures. Slowly, Daniel began to reflect instead of complain. He wrote down what went wrong. He realized that he had rushed some decisions and ignored important advice. This time, instead of blaming others or bad luck, he took responsibility. That was a small but powerful change in his mindset. Daniel decided to give himself one rule: never quit while emotions are high. He promised to rest, learn, and then decide again. He started reading books about growth mindset and listening to talks about failure. One sentence stayed with him: failure is not the opposite of success. It is part of it. With time, his energy returned. Daniel began waking up early again. He improved his skills, studied his mistakes, and prepared himself better. Even though he did not see success yet, he felt stronger inside. He understood that patience was not about waiting. It was about working calmly while trusting the process. This failure did not break Daniel. Instead, it shaped him. He was no longer chasing quick success. He was building himself step by step with discipline and belief. And for the first time, he felt ready for whatever came next. Daniel's next attempt was different. This time, he did not rush. He remembered his past mistakes and decided to slow down. Instead of chasing quick success, he focused on learning and improvement. He spent long hours reading books, watching educational videos, and practicing new skills every day. At first, progress was very slow. Sometimes Daniel felt frustrated because his effort did not bring immediate results. There were days when he wanted to quit again, but he reminded himself of an important lesson he had learned from failure. Growth takes time. One evening, Daniel met an older man at a small library. The man noticed Daniel studying late every night and asked about his goals. Daniel shared his story honestly, his failures, disappointments, and fears. The man listened carefully and then said, "Failure is not your enemy. Giving up is." These words stayed in Daniel's mind. He realized that every failure had prepared him for this moment. He was no longer afraid of making mistakes. Instead, he started to see mistakes as lessons. Each day, he wrote down what he learned and how he could do better tomorrow. Slowly, things began to change. Daniel's skills improved. His confidence grew. People started noticing his dedication and discipline. For the first time, Daniel felt proud. Not because he had succeeded, but because he had not given up. This phase of his life taught him patience. He understood that success was not a straight road. It was a long journey filled with challenges, failures, and growth. And now, Daniel was finally ready to move forward with a stronger mindset and a clearer vision. After years of repeated failure, Daniel reached one of the lowest points in his life. He was tired, disappointed, and emotionally exhausted. Many people around him believed it was time to quit. Even his close friends suggested that he find a safe and stable path instead of chasing dreams that had brought him nothing but pain. For the first time, Daniel seriously considered giving up. He asked himself difficult questions. Why do I keep failing? Am I not talented enough? Am I wasting my time? These thoughts stayed with him day and night. But deep inside, there was still a quiet voice telling him not to stop. One evening, Daniel sat alone in his small room and wrote down all his failures. Failed exams, rejected applications, broken plans, lost opportunities. The list was long, but then he did something different. Next to each failure, he wrote what he had learned from it. Slowly, he began to see a pattern. Every failure had taught him something valuable: patience, discipline, humility, and resilience. Daniel realized that his failures were not signs to stop. They were lessons preparing him for something bigger. This understanding changed his mindset. Instead of feeling ashamed of his past, he began to respect himself for surviving it. He understood that failure is not the opposite of success. It is part of success. The next day, Daniel made a new decision. He would try again, but this time with a smarter plan. He stopped rushing. He focused on improving his skills step by step. He created a daily routine that included learning, practice, and self-reflection. Progress was slow, but it was real. There were still difficult days, Some nights, he felt afraid that nothing would change. But now, he didn't let those feelings control him. He reminded himself that growth takes time and that patience is a powerful skill. This phase of Daniel's life taught him one of the most important lessons. Giving up is the only real failure. As long as he continued moving forward, even slowly, he was still winning. By this stage of his life, Daniel had already failed more times than most people around him. Failed exams, rejected job applications, and business ideas that never worked out had become a painful pattern. Many people told him the same sentence again and again, "Maybe this is not for you." For a short time, Daniel started to believe them. He felt tired, disappointed, and unsure of himself. Every new failure felt heavier than the previous one. But deep inside, there was still a small voice reminding him why he had started in the first place. He wanted a better life, not only for himself, but also for his family. Instead of giving up, Daniel decided to change his approach. He stopped rushing for quick success and began focusing on learning. He reviewed his past mistakes carefully. Why did he fail? What skills was he missing? What would he do better next time? This honest self-reflection became a turning point. Daniel started improving one step at a time. He learned new skills online, read books about mindset and discipline, and practiced every day. Progress was slow, and results were not immediate, but he refused to stop. He reminded himself that growth takes time, and patience was part of the journey. Although the world still didn't see his progress, Daniel knew he was changing inside. His mindset became stronger, his confidence slowly returned, and his failures no longer scared him. They had become lessons instead of obstacles. By the seventh stage of his journey, Daniel was no longer afraid of failure, but it still tested him. One of his biggest projects collapsed just weeks before completion. Months of hard work seemed wasted. The disappointment was deep, heavier than anything he had felt before. For a moment, the old thoughts returned. Maybe I'm not good enough. Maybe this is my limit. But this time, something was different. Daniel did not run away from these thoughts. He sat quietly and allowed himself to feel the pain. Then he asked a new question. What is this failure trying to teach me? This simple shift in mindset helped him regain control. Instead of reacting emotionally, he analyzed the situation calmly. He realized that failure had shown him weaknesses in his planning and communication. He had rushed some decisions and avoided asking for help when he needed it. These lessons were uncomfortable, but they were valuable. Daniel wrote everything down, turning mistakes into clear action points for the future. During this period, Daniel practiced patience more than ever. He understood that growth takes time and that real success is built slowly. While others compared themselves to people who succeeded quickly, Daniel focused only on improving himself step by step. He stopped measuring success by results alone and started measuring it by effort and learning. People around him noticed the change. Even after failing again, Daniel remained calm, focused, and disciplined. Instead of complaining, he worked quietly. Instead of quitting, he adjusted his strategy. This mental strength became one of his greatest assets. Daniel finally understood a powerful truth. Failure does not stop you. Giving up does. Each setback was shaping his character, strengthening his mindset, and preparing him for something greater. He was no longer chasing success desperately. He was becoming the kind of person who could handle it. By this stage of his journey, Alex was no longer afraid of failure. In fact, he had learned to expect it. Each failed attempt had taught him something new about himself, about people, and about life. What once felt like the end of the road now felt like feedback, guiding him toward a better path. Alex remembered the times he was rejected, ignored, and underestimated. Those memories still hurt, but they no longer controlled him. Instead, they motivated him. He understood that patience was a skill, just like learning or working. The more he practiced patience, the stronger he became mentally. One day, Alex faced another major setback. A project he had worked on for months failed to succeed. Old feelings of doubt returned for a moment. But this time, he reacted differently. He paused, took a deep breath, and asked himself a simple question. What can I learn from this? That question changed everything. Instead of quitting, Alex adjusted his approach. He improved his skills, asked for advice, and tried again. This growth mindset helped him move forward without carrying emotional weight from the past. He realized that growth happens when you continue, not when you win. People around him began to notice his calm strength. They saw someone who didn't complain, didn't blame others, and didn't give up. Alex had become an example of resilience, not because he succeeded quickly, but because he refused to stop trying. This part of his journey proves an important lesson. Failure does not weaken you unless you let it stop you. When faced with setbacks, patience and persistence can slowly turn struggle into strength. After years of trying, Alex was finally seeing the results of his hard work. Each previous failure had taught him valuable lessons: how to plan better, how to manage time, and how to stay patient under pressure. Even though he still faced obstacles, he no longer felt discouraged. One of Alex's biggest realizations was that failure was not the opposite of success, but a necessary step toward it. Each mistake had shown him what not to do and helped him refine his approach. He now treated failures as a guide, not a punishment. At work, Alex encountered situations where colleagues gave up after minor setbacks. But he stayed calm and persistent, using his past experiences to navigate challenges. Slowly, he began to earn recognition and respect. People admired his resilience and determination. Alex also started sharing his story with others who were struggling. He explained that success is built through small, consistent actions and the courage to continue despite setbacks. Teaching and inspiring others reinforced his own commitment to never give up. By the end of this part, Alex had grown not just professionally but personally. He understood that patience, perseverance, and a growth mindset were his most powerful tools. He had learned to embrace the journey, with all its ups and downs, knowing that every failure brought him closer to success. Finally, Alex reached a point where his persistence began to pay off. Projects that had failed many times before now succeeded. He had developed the skills, mindset, and confidence to tackle challenges effectively. Every failure along the way had shaped him into a stronger, wiser person. Alex realized that success was not an instant achievement, but the result of continuous effort, learning from mistakes, and refusing to give up. Even small improvements made every day added up to significant growth over time. He also noticed that his attitude inspired others. Friends and colleagues saw how he remained calm, patient, and determined despite obstacles. Many asked for advice, and Alex shared his journey openly, encouraging them to adopt a growth mindset and persistence in their own lives. At the end of the story, the key lesson was clear. Embrace failure as a teacher. Stay patient and consistent. Believe in your ability to grow and succeed. Alex's journey shows that anyone can achieve their dreams with resilience, learning, and determination. No failure is final. Every setback is a stepping stone to success.